And it also needs to be something that fits with you and what you're doing. And so that's why we really wanted to concentrate, not really spend so much time, blowing our own horn here about how fabulous LevelUp is. You'll see that, but about integrating technology in general into foundational literacy in the classroom, and techniques and strategies that are high yield for doing that well. So you will find, there's sort of a pendulum swing back toward traditional resources. And the reason for that is we are seeing, one of the things we do need to do is limit the amount of screen time that some of our kids are using. And we also know there's no silver bullet, nor is there any substitute for great teaching. So there are things that you do well, and there are things that computers can do better than you can do. But there are things that teachers do far better than computers can do. So smart educators and decision makers in schools and districts are finding that balance. And I think that's kind of exciting. So this sort of takes me all the way back to my days in the classroom, because before I left teaching, I was the district liaison, and my job was to integrate technology into the classroom. And I went into every classroom in our district, and it was Chesterfield County in Virginia, a large district, and helped teachers understand how to integrate technology. Then I would go to educational conferences and talk about integrating technology into your classroom. Now, I've moved away from that when I got out of teaching and was more focused just on product. But I love now that our industry, education, the business of education, is really looking at, I don't care how great you say the buttons and bells are on your product, tell me how it fits with what I'm trying to do with my kids in my classroom. So that's really our theme today. And hopefully you'll find this a good use of this 60 minutes. Now, I'm going to go through, you are muted. However, please feel free in the Q&A to put in questions. And I think Sheila Warner is on with me. Sheila is my manager of customer engagement. She'll be taking notes and looking at questions that are put into chat or into the Q&A, and we'll be happy to answer those as we go through. And anything that we can't answer, that we need to find answers for, I will be giving you my email at the end, and please feel free to reach out directly to me. All right, so let's get started. We're going to look at the PK resources that I talked about with the kind of a focus on the key features and functionality. And this is with the eye toward, is it something that would be beneficial to what you're already doing? So again, we're not saying you need to throw out of, the busy classrooms that are buzzing in your district are doing. We're saying, is there something that might be enhanced with an integration of this product? So again, as we look at that, it will be with that eye. We're going to look at some of the offline supplemental resources, because you're going to find that there are fully printable books. All of the books that are on here, you can print out either in full, either in the full page version or in a half page, or these are mini books. And you can see this one is bilingual. Hopefully you can see that. It's got the English and the Spanish. And it's great because, again, it's that blend of traditional books that can go home if you have kids that maybe don't have books at home, and also books that you can annotate in and use over and over, print out again and again. So Rosen has the actual books themselves. This is a paperback. We have hard copy books as well, but traditional books as well as books that you can print, and other supplemental materials like lesson plans and graphic organizers and templates, etc. And we'll look at those. And then just a little quick review of what it looks like people are predicting with their crystal ball of how the trends are looking toward literacy, and the initiatives that look like, or an initiative that looks like it's going to be something that we're going to be working with over the next decade, and how this product fits with that initiative. So I would ask you to just take a minute and think about how you assure that the books being assigned to students in your school district or classroom are at the right reading level for each student. And there are multiple ways of doing this. The problem that I used to see, and I still see sometimes when I go out now, is that, you know, I'm doing a book report on, I want my kids to do book reports on animal habitats. So I go to the library and I find all the books on animals that we have and habitats. And I work with the librarian and I'm staying late, and, you know, it's taking me forever to get these materials prepared. And then the child who wants to do rabbits has a book that is at a reading level that they cannot comprehend. So the point typically when I'm combining reading across the content areas, so if I'm studying animal habitats and science and I want to connect literacy to that so that we're reading and writing in the content area, I'm defeating the purpose of not just that great intention, but also my really hard work and my time if I'm assigning a book that a child cannot comprehend. So what's nice is if you have a way to know the Lexile level of the child, the reading comprehension level of the child, and you can match texts to that level. And that way you are assured that students have a fighting chance of being able to understand what they're reading. It's also good because you can teach kids to search. So if I want them to do a literacy across the content area project, I can say search for a book and make sure it's in your Lexile range. Or I can do what I do in the library after school that takes me hours in about 5 minutes on a computer that has a program that can find books, has a rich library of many topics, books that are fiction, nonfiction, books that are Spanish, bilingual, and also books that are at various Lexile levels. So the way that we measure and we assure, if you will, that books are assigned to at the right level to students is that we partner with MetaMetrics. MetaMetrics are the scientists behind helping us help our customers determine where are students' reading and comprehension levels and where is that growing, because it's not stagnant. It never is. That's the difficult part. I'm a teacher and I've got it together and I know where my kids are reading and I've got books assigned, based on my basal, and all of a sudden Johnny's taking off with vocabulary and reading comprehension, and Susie is struggling, and now I have to regroup. And you know, that is the real world. So the great thing about partnering with MetaMetrics is they have a system that gives you every 2 weeks a quick temperature read of where that child is in their range of reading comprehension. And so it's not guesswork. The child's Lexile level is established, and as that changes, we continue to monitor it. And the books themselves are Lexiled so that we can make sure we're giving them what they can comprehend. You may or may not know this, but Lexiles are much like a thermometer in that from zero Lexile, they go up. From 0, they go down. So a child who's reading at a BR 600 is reading lower than a child that's reading at a BR 100. So not so above 0, right? So above 0, the 600 is a higher level reader. Below, if they have that BR to indicate they're a beginning reader, a 600 would be below a 100, if that makes sense, okay? And I'm not going to read to well-read adults, but you'll see here that this is based on their scientific approach to measuring. The student gets that measure, and then using that measure, there is a sweet spot, and that sweet spot for students is 100 Lexile below to 50 above. And the reason that's important is we want to give kids a stretch. They need to have challenging text so that their comprehension skills grow, but that we also don't want to frustrate them. So we don't want to give them books that are so difficult that they cannot comprehend them. Obviously, that defeats the purpose of them reading it, and it also a lot of times causes people that you hear today say, I'm not a good reader, I don't like reading. I like the quote, and I don't know who to attribute it to, but it's not mine, that there aren't children who don't like to read. There are just children who haven't found the right book yet. So I think that's really true. And I think part of finding the right book is finding the right book at the right reading level. And MetaMetrics helps us do that. As students log in for the very first time with no teacher input needed, they're given an intake assessment. It does start with simple picture matching and gets more complicated. You see the 24 here, it is a longer test. And this is the first test that they have, and it's really the only long test in LevelUp at all. And this is meant to just set that baseline, Lexile level. Every 2 weeks, if the student's reading regularly and in the right range, the system automatically, they get a little notice that says it's time to level up. They take a much shorter quiz. It's a little testlet, 3 to 6 questions if it's a student that's reading below a 200 level. For students who are reading above that level, there are closed passages. But the student, again, it's a short, quick little test that it comes to them directly every 2 weeks. The teacher doesn't have to take part in that. And the student, it continues to progress monitor the student's reading growth. So this is just a sample of, and you see here the 6. This is the last one. So if the student is reading below 200, this is what the testlet looks like, and 6 questions would be about the maximum. If the student's reading above 200, you see that it has closed passages. But once again, you're talking about 4 to 5 words that they would fill in those close passages that are embedded. And then immediately the student will get their results. So nice, excellent feedback, immediate, and students can monitor and see their own growth and take some accountability for their own reading progress. Now, this is different, and I want to make sure that I'm very clear here. The comprehension quizzes, so we learned about our partnership with MetaMetrics and what MetaMetrics does. With no input from teachers, there is a baseline established, and every 2 weeks we monitor that growth. If you as a teacher are assigning books on rabbits' habitats and you want to know what that child comprehended on that particular book, then at the end of that book, you can, as the teacher, you have control. You can say, I want quizzes turned on at the end of every book, at the end of no books, at the end of every 5 books. And you can also put in, if you would like the student to have a constructed response question at the end of the quiz. The quizzes are also available in Spanish. The Lexile test is not, but you are able, and the quizzes also have audio to assist with the child understanding the questions. So again, different from measuring how they're growing in their reading skills. How are the quizzes are really about the books they just read and the skills and standards that book is aligned to. So I am able as a teacher to turn quizzes off. I love to read, but I don't want to take a quiz at the end of every book I read. And if you're really more concerned about them reading for pleasure and building a culture of literacy and a joy of reading, turn the quizzes off. And then if you're doing an assignment on volcanoes or Hawaii or Memphis or whatever, you can put those quizzes on for that set of books or for that time period, and then get those results so that you can know what kids are doing. I will show you when I do the demonstration what the results of the quizzes look like, and teachers can preview the quizzes before every test as well as the answers before they decide if they want to assign the quiz or not. So again, the quizzes, it's up to you. And this is where, again, is it a good fit for how you want to integrate into what's going on in your classroom, or isn't it? You're the expert on that. But it gives you the control and the option. Again, with quizzes, you get immediate feedback. You get, great job. Here's your score. Not only the score, but also what did you get right and what did you get wrong. So I'm going to go in as a student right now so that you can get a feel for what the student experience looks like. And let's see, I think I'll just go in as Jada. You'll notice that there's not a million buttons and bells. The interface is very clean. It's very simple. It's not distracting to those students that are dyslexic or have learning disabilities or are struggling readers or just learning to read and don't need a million buttons and bells. They can search by putting in a keyword. My brain today isn't too, I saw a turtle and I search for turtles. You can see when I do search, books come up. If I see one that I like, I can add it to my favorites by clicking the heart. I'm also able to, if I'm just in my bookshelf without any searching, I have a banner across the top that shows me books that are maybe new or books that are topical, if it's fall, whatever. I'll show you the rest of this screen, but I'm just going to show you a book so that you get a feel for it. Now, when a student goes in, notice again, this is not a million different buttons and bells. If you want them to annotate and circle all of the words that start with E or have a Y in the middle of them, print the book out and have the student annotate. Most of the time, pre-K, first grade, kindergarten, even second grade kids are not annotating. And if they are, it works really well. And I've seen this in classrooms where they have the book, they have the digital version, they're putting sticky notes or they're writing right into the book or using crayons to circle in certain colors. And so once again, there are as many wonderful ways to implement as there are wonderful teachers with fantastic creative ideas for how to integrate. But let me show you that I can change the volume. I'm able to make the book smaller or the text bigger if I need to. I can play audio, which will highlight the words as it's read to me. These are read by authentic voiceover professionals. It's not digitized. And if I do want to read it myself, I can do that as well. I'm going to, for this, go ahead and let it read.
Whose Eyes Are These? By Joanne Randolph. Whose sharp orange eyes help it hunt? This owl's sharp orange eyes help it hunt. Whose green eyes are really made up of lots of small eyes? A praying mantis has green eyes made up of lots of small eyes. Which big cat's eyes are set in a striped face? A tiger's eyes are set in a striped face. Whose eyes have colorful scales all around them? A chameleon's eyes have colorful scales all around.
I'm going to stop for the sake of time and just kind of go through so that you see. Now, the pace of the book is set by the Lexile level of the book. So when MetaMetrics sets the Lexile level, they also have let us know the pace. And the pace, if a student just clicks through faster than that pace, they do not get credit for reading the book. So again, at the end here, you saw that I have some words that I can use, vocabulary or high frequency words sometimes. Sometimes there are teacher notes. This shows me other titles that are in the series. And then this tells me I need to finish the book, that I did a great job. And if my teacher has put the comprehension quiz on there, I will have those as well. And I'm just going to kind of go through this so that you can see. Again, it's a short quiz. My teacher did not ask me to do a constructive response at the end, but you can see that I'm complimented. I've finished it. Good job. And here's my score. And I'm able to scroll down immediately and get feedback that is showing me what I got wrong, what I got right, and then able to move back to my bookshelf. I'm going to scroll down so that you can see that on my bookshelf, I have any books that I've started and not finished, including books that are aligned to our phonics. There is an explicit full phonics program embedded within this. And the nice thing here is if I'm teaching specific letter sounds or blends or compound words, I can have the student practice that, and then I can also have them apply what they learned by looking at the authentic texts that are here. So we have authentic fiction and nonfiction that allows for immediate practice and application of what students maybe just learned within one of the phonics books. So again, these are all carousels. I'm just going to scroll over so that you can see we have our blends. I hope this isn't making anybody feel like they're on a roller coaster and their tummies upset, but so I'm just scrolling across, and you see I go all the way from emergent sounds and letter combinations to, you know, multisyllabic words and compound words. So I have all of that at my fingertips. I want to show you one of the books, and I'm just going to pick one that is a phonics book so that you can see how students can independently practice within the phonics. There's 110 phonics books that give them that practice ability. Not babyish.
The letter N. This is the letter N. It makes the sound N. This is an uppercase N. 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 This is a lowercase n. 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 Let's write the letter N. Follow the arrow to trace the uppercase N.
Again, does this fit with what you're doing? If you have touch screens, kids can use their fingers to trace. They can use the mouse. The mouse is not foreign to them. They're used to using it. And it gives that kinesthetic ability, you know, the kinesthetic learner, that ability to make that connection. I'm not going to trace the whole upper and lower case, but you see.
This is the letter N. Let's practice reading some words that begin with the letter N. 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 When we put the letter N, N, with est, we get nest. When we put the letter N, N, with ale, we get nail. When we put the letter N, N, with et, we get net. When we put the letter N, N, with O's, we get nose. Find the 4 words that begin with the letter N hidden in this word search. The words you must find are nose, net, nail, nest. To find them, look down and across. We found nose. Can you find the rest?
When I first saw this, I thought, oh my gosh, this is way too hard. But I've been watching and observing, and kids, it's amazing what they're able to do. And so they are able to find the correct answers and get immediate feedback. If they do it wrong, they are told that they got it wrong. So again, there are at least 3.
Let's practice reading some words that begin with the letter.
Let me just say there are. Sorry.
Let's practice reading some words that begin with the letter. Drag the words that begin with the letter N to the matching picture.
All right, sorry, I hit the wrong button. So I did want to move here and say there are at least 3 activities within each of the books. So you have 110 books, which means it's very interactive. So you may be doing centers where kids are matching, you know, flashcard words and pictures. And you may have some kids that are on the computer doing it. Or you may be, you know, depending upon what level you have in your classroom, some kids may be working on compound words while other kids are still working on beginning sounds. So once again, great. Gives me the ability to work on my own, get feedback. Oops. Oh.
You learned the letter N and its sound.
Sorry about that.
Nice work.
Thank you. All right, so now I'm going to go back to my bookshelf. You've seen a book, you've seen one of the phonics books. I'm sure you can see how this would be able to be put together. As I scroll down as a student, my assignments, my carousel of books for phonics practice, other books that depending on, because I read this book and I'm reading in this Lexile level, these are books that are suggested for me. And again, it's the same Lexile feel, I'm sorry, Netflix feel, where you can scroll across and you have tons and tons of choices. If I see a book that I want to read, but I don't have time to read it right now, I just click the heart, and I can do that with any books that I see that I think I might want to read later. When I come back up and go to my favorites, that's where I will see books that I have saved to read later. Okay, so there you have it. I'm also able as a student to look. This is a screenshot that you saw earlier. This just gives you an example of where, you know, I am in my progress. I can keep track of that. And then if I am earning points and my teacher has set this up to allow me to use the game, and this again is totally up to the teacher, there is a motivating game designed on Unity, very, I want to say not babyish, which is not really a word, but, and you go into the store, you buy backgrounds, all different, this happens to be the castle background, but you can buy all sorts of different ones. I happen to really like the peacocks and I like them dancing. But when I go in, the kids are doing all sorts of things. You can see that in the store, I'm able to buy animals that, you know, can do really sort of funny things, turn flips, etc., take a nap, and other characters and vehicles and backgrounds. Okay, so they can do that. A student can be an absolute rock star on the games by earning a lot of points and not be the best reader, because the points happen based on the time spent in level up reading. So if they're spending time reading, they're getting points, and then they can come in and have a fantastic change, you know, they're able to change backgrounds, they're able to do all sorts of fun things with the game, like have peacocks that dance together. And then that is another form of motivation for kids who, especially if they're struggling readers, it motivates them to spend time in a literacy program so that they can gain those points. Now, teachers can set the parameters that whether they do or don't want the game to be played during class time. So they have the total control. Yeah, and that's a great question. Ezra had a question about, it looked like the suggestions that were on this student's carousel of books or in the collection were based on, and it's true, it is, the system is smart. So the system not only takes what the child's Lexile level is, but based on what the child is reading, it begins to say, this child really likes books, birds, this child really likes boats, etc. So the books are not only in the correct Lexile level, but they're also in the correct, I'm sorry, not in the correct, they're also of interest to the child as proven by the books a child is selecting, okay? And we definitely see that Carol has a terrible time doing two things at once. All right, I'm gonna go out now and back to my bookshelf. I do want to say that I have seen a lot of programs that are out there. And the thing that I love the most about this one is the simplicity. I like the fact that I have phonics built in, but I also like that if I want to annotate, I can use offline books. If I want to buy the books that are a hard copy or paperback books, versions of those, I can. I can print out books other resources if I want to, so that I don't have to use this program solely online. And I like the fact that it's not distracting for me as a student. I have books, I have a game, which my teacher can set time for. I can save into my favorites and I can check my progress. That's it. I'm not doing a lot of coloring and sticky notes and other things that distract me if I'm already a distracted reader, if that makes sense. Okay. All right, good. All right. Oops, sorry about that. All right, I'm going to log out now as the student and log in as a teacher, but I do want to give you a little bit of information first about the teacher experience so that as you see it, it will make more sense. Okay, so let me just go back to where I was here. All right. So you'll notice here, after seeing the student version, that there is, it's very similar interface. There's a very similar interface. It's not, again, a million things. There's not too much data because we are very data rich, but there's the right data. I can search just like my students searched. However, notice I have a sub category or a sub menu when I search, and I'll demonstrate that when I'm on, and that will show you how you can filter a little bit of the search to be able to find that you're looking for if you want to assign that. When you're searching the collection, once I think here I'm searching on family. Now I'm going to say, I just want to see books about family that are in Spanish or bilingual books. So I can do that as well. I'm able to save books into my collection, and I can create tags. And I can use a book for multiple things. So I may have a book on the color yellow that I want to use when I'm doing colors, but I also may want to have my students practice the letter Y, and I may have books about yarn and weaving and yellow and etc. And I can tag that book for letter Y as well. You see here I have practice letter P. And I may have purple in there, and it might be in colors and here for this. So that's the great thing about tagging instead of folders. I'm able to use a book for multiple purposes. When I open a book as a teacher, I don't see the book immediately. I see this page, which allows me to see, is the book also available in Spanish? Is it available in a bilingual version? What is the Lexile level? How long is it? What other resources are aligned? I can assign it straight from here. And those resources are everything that was mentioned before, like lesson plans, printable books, graphic organizers to connect reading and writing, sequencing, high-level strategies for being able to comprehend and better understand, KWLs, etc. Book report templates, lesson plans, and more, and in English and in Spanish. Once again, that pendulum is swinging from all this digital work to let's do what a teacher does best offline with these students using offline materials. And let's blend traditional materials with digital, where we know the digital is going to give us the data we need or allow us to have kids doing different things if that's what they need to be practicing. So again, just how you integrate it, once again, depends upon your needs in your specific situation. But again, as a teacher, when I open the book, I can look right now and preview the quiz. I can assign it. If I've created groups within my class, I can assign to full groups by selecting all. I could assign to every group I've made or select all to all my students, etc. So let's just say that I am doing a lesson on the jungle and I have Sal and Jada and Nassim not reading anywhere close to the same comprehension level. I can give Jenny in the Jungle, which is a beginning reader 60 level for Sal to read. I can give Rowdy Racket in the Jungle to Jada, because she's reading at a much higher level. And I can give, or if I wanted to, some of these books, right, are in this book you can see is in Spanish. So maybe I even have a Spanish speaker. I might want to assign that book in Spanish. These other books I happen to pick aren't, but there's a ton that are. Or for Nassim, I can say he's sort of in that middle range. So I'm going to have him read about safaris here, and then we're going to all get back together and talk about what we learned about the jungle, but we are not reading the same book. Now, I can project one book and I can have either the audio going or turn the audio off and read aloud to my students, and certainly do it that way. But if I'm having them independently read on a topic, they don't all have to read the same book on that topic. So once again, I'd like you to think about how you assure that the reading assignments that you're giving, just like I showed you, this teacher is giving Nassim a safari book because they're learning about jungles at his correct level. How do you or your teachers assure that the assignments that you're giving kids to read are at the appropriate reading comprehension level for each student? So I just want you to think that through. I'm not asking you to share that right now. And in the interest of time, I just want you to think it through and reflect on, how do you do that? Because again, we do things as teachers much better than what computers can do. But there are things like picking out books that assure us that the reading level is matched to the child's comprehension level that might be better than we can do, or might be able to help us in our work. So I just want you to think that through a little bit, because the pendulum is definitely swinging. It's not all silver bullet, here's your digital solution, but it's let's use traditional and let's use digital and let's use our fantastic teachers with great creative ideas to do what they do best and integrate that. So that's where we're really talking about seamlessly integrating. All right, you saw some phonics demonstrated. I do want you to know there's a full scope and sequence that goes with that. Teachers can save these. If you notice here, I've saved this as a teacher. I've gone in and said Unit 1, upper and lowercase, and CVCs or whatever it is. I've got digraphs, I've got consonant blends, and I've saved them into my favorites and tagged them. And I can just bring those books up in a snap and assign them to the appropriate students. Again, you saw some of this as far as what the activities are to be able to interact. It's not just talking at them, they're actually interacting. Again, I think you saw some of these resources, but I want you to oh, that's a great question. All right, let me get back to that one in a minute. That's an excellent question. So again, these are the supplemental resources. And these just happen. I was in the class Surprise, and in the class Surprise, which was a Spanish version and an English version, I was able to see, not this phonics scope and sequence, that's kind of stuck in there. But you see that when I was in that, I had resources both in English and in Spanish. So the question is, if I save something in my favorites, does the algorithm know that because I saved a book on whales to start recommending me not only books in my reading zone based on the Lexile level I'm comprehending, but also on whales? The answer is not until you read the book. So if you just tag it to save it, it's not going to assume that you're going to read it and love it. If you read it and finish it, then it will assume that you liked it, and then it goes into that algorithm. But great question. Great question. Also, we don't really want it to do that, because if it did that, then that would mean, some kids just love beautiful covers of books and they start saving everything. And we really want to make sure that we're being a little bit more selective in what we're recommending. Okay, so the likely trend for the next decade, this was in the Technology 2019, looking ahead to the next decade. And I thought this was interesting because a lot of times when you read this report from Promethean, of course, it's all about how fabulous Promethean boards are, but it also is fair and does really dig deeper than just their product into what are teachers and administrators really saying. And a lot of times when you look at it, the teachers and the administrators don't have the same opinion, but I thought this was interesting in that there's strong agreement here, first of all, and also it does look like a strong trend that the survey is showing that the majority of both audiences, meaning both teachers and administrators, do see and agree that the future is going to routinely involve that combination of ed tech and traditional teaching methods and resources. So once again, Not to say, you know, you can't do the way you're doing. There are schools out there, charter schools that are all, or virtual schools that are all online. And certainly if that's working for the kids that those schools are serving, no one's saying that they have to do any changing. But I do think it's interesting that we as an education community sort of follow what we're seeing that's working. And I have been reading a lot of the research reports, the white papers from various different companies, and the labs as well. NWEA just came out with one that was really good. And so, and it is showing, you know, a strong recommendation for the value of combining. And if you think about it, it makes sense. You know, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 18 years ago, when I was talking about integrating technology into the classroom, we thought if you didn't integrate technology into the classroom, you weren't going to be ready for the next century and you were going to be left behind and never get a job. And of course, technology is here and it's here to stay. But I think I like the fact that we're finding a balance for our kids so that it's not all screen time, but we are looking at, let's be smart. Let's use what works best to do the job that we need done. You don't use a hammer if you need to screw in a screw. You use, you know, a screwdriver. And it's the same thing with this. Use what works best, okay? One more quick reflection. How would you incorporate both digital and printable resources? And that's what I want you to take away from today and think about, because obviously, you know, that is something that we see as a trend, and you're likely already doing that and probably will be doing more so. Quickly, just what teachers see, the right data, not too much, but the right data. I can drill into this to see more skills and standards, but on my screen, immediately I can see author's purpose, cause and effect, sequencing events, my kids are doing really well at. Making inferences, and some of the others are struggling with. So I may look and go, you know what, I want to look for some books and filter by those specific skills and assign that and put a quiz at the end and see how they're doing. Again, the results, if I were to drill into that particular one, would show me not just the skills, but the standards that those skills are aligned to as well. And I have relevant and real-time data immediately for the students in my class, okay? In the interest of time, I am not going to go back in as a teacher. You kind of have seen based on here what the interface looks like. It's very much like what you will see. Actually, I can go in really quick just for a minute, but I want to make sure that I leave you with my name and email address so that if you have further questions, you can get in touch with me. But again, books that I've started, books that I've assigned, not different, same kind of a carousel feel. Again, I'm able to save and tag. I'm able to look at my classroom. This is where I can assign books, look in my inbox if I've had any students that I've asked to do a constructed response. That answer would be here and I could say, does it meet or not meet? I'm also able here, this is where I can set the quiz frequency. I can turn constructed response off and on, game access. If I put in here the time, my class here is from 8:30 till 3:15. And we actually meet from Monday to Friday, but I'm not putting Friday in because I don't want to protect that time. This is the protected time. And when I hit apply, that means that the game access is on for anything that's not protected. So that's why I didn't put Friday, because I'm saying for Friday, they can use it in an unlimited way. The rest of the time during class, during those times, they can only use it for 10 minutes. And then again, I can go into my reports, which you have kind of just seen. This is where I can drill in further. I can scroll over to see the actual standards. I can look at by, various filters, and at a glance, I'm able to see where kids are, how many books, what their quizzes look like, and drill into any student that I want to. This one, I can look and say, took a quiz here. This is not the quizzes. This is actually the student's reading level. So again, this is a demo site, but if I were maybe Jack, there you go. So, I can see this is what we want to see. The student's level is going up. And again, if we saw it tanking, then obviously we know that that is not what we want, and we would intervene. Okay, so again, LevelUp, it's designed specifically for pre-K-2. You saw a lot of the features and functionality. There's not a million buttons and bells. There's the right data. There's the right kind of science and research behind it. A rich amount of digital nonfiction and fiction in both Spanish and English, and also bilingual books. And you did see that there are a ton of offline printable books as well as supplemental resources for teachers. So I hope this was helpful. You can take a quick screenshot or picture of my email address. Feel free to reach out to me if you have questions. If you're interested in learning more, let us know. So again, thank you for joining us today, and I hope you found this helpful.